Wave 3 News, working for you, presents Game On. The Wildcats and the Bulldogs headed to the big dance with live team coverage from Houston.
Brought to you by Charlie Wilson's Appliance and TV, Fan Outfitters, the Kentucky Lottery, Norton Healthcare, Oxmoor Auto Group, and Oxmoor Ford.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Houston, Texas. It is Game On as we are on the eve of college basketball's signature event here in Reliance Stadium. I'm Kent Taylor.
And I'm Connie Leonard. And, of course, Kent, this whole hour we're going to bring complete coverage of the Wildcats and the Bulldogs all over everything that is happening here in Houston and also what's happening back at home. And we want to toss over to our Scott Reynolds, who's back in the studio. Hey, Scott, how are you?
All right, Connie and Kent, I've got insight from some former Cats heroes who say this really takes them back to the days they stepped on the floor for the Final Four. We'll be back here in our studio in just a few minutes, guys.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
And, of course, the Friday before the Final Four games, it always means open practices in the arena. It's a chance for fans who maybe don't even have tickets to the event to come in. It's open, it's free, it's open to the public. So let's take a look inside Reliance Stadium this afternoon because all four teams did have open workouts, including the Kentucky Wildcats. Now, this stadium seats 76,500 fans. So a decent crowd there today, even though it looked like there was no one in there because it is so large, so cavernous. There'll be a lot of people with some questionable tickets, I have a feeling, for the games tomorrow night. Now, this Kentucky team, a surprise to many that they got this far, not a surprise to head coach John Calipari.
Well, there's two things that happen with this team. The veteran players, the guys that were on the team a year ago, began to step up and take more responsibility for what was going on. The younger guys took a little step back, not much, but a little step back so that they could step forward. But the biggest thing is they started believing in each other. And I kept telling them all along, I like this team. I believe in you guys. Here's why. But you're gonna have to battle and perform.
And they have battled and performed throughout this NCAA tournament. This is a regional team, obviously. We want to welcome our viewers in Evansville and Cincinnati as well. And starting to call it maybe Blueston. What do you think? I think we're going to have quite a few Kentucky fans who make their way down here.
Absolutely. There were quite a few here today for the practice, Kent. And I tell you what, a lot of the Kentucky fans were just remembering where they were 13 years ago. Where were you? I was in San Antonio. Take a look at this. Kind of an old-looking Wave 3. I'm a big Blue fan. A lot of the fans had it down there. It was a good time had by all, but these fans are just really excited about the progress of this team. A 17-hour drive from Midway, Kentucky. No sweat for Debbie and Randy Biddle. Debbie, you guys drove 17 hours. When did you get here?
A couple hours ago.
You had to be here for the shoot-around, right?
Yes, we did.
That confidence was alive and well in maybe the most excited Cat fan of the day, Carrie Bishop, with poster Big Blue Nails and Goosebumps in tow.
I knew they'd be back. When I was doing my brackets at work, Kentucky, of course, was right in the middle, taking it all. And all of my friends were like, they're not even going to get through the Sweet 16. I'm like, you do not know who you're talking about. I was like, there's no way that God can bring the Final Four to Houston where I live and not my Cats. So.
Former Wave TV security guard James Ford was on vacation in Houston and still can't believe his luck.
I was talking to my brother-in-law last night, told him that I was coming down. He said, oh, yeah, rub it in on me.
Looking loose and playing strong, fans say, UConn, bring it on. Josh Harrelson's the man now.
He is the man. He's the glue that holds our team together.
Are you going to wear your jorts to the game?
Wear my jorts to the game. Yes, I am.
You better.
I guarantee it.
And jorts, it's the new buzzword around here in Houston. I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of folks with those blue jean shorts that Josh Harrelson loves on Saturday.
He has become a folk hero. I'm not so sure that we won't see him maybe run for political office like Richie Farmer down the road. You think?
I think you might be right.
And another guy who could run for political office in the state is John Calipari. Now, today is actually the anniversary of the press conference when UK introduced John Calipari as its head coach, the third head coach in 3 years. It was on April 1st, no April Fool's joke, on April 1st, 2009. We thought it'd be fun to take a step back 2 years ago to the day and listen to some of his comments from that opening press conference. It was April Fool's Day 2009, exactly 2 years ago from today. UK introduced John Calipari as the program's third head basketball coach in the last 3 years.
I told Mitch and I told Dr. Todd, I'm a gatherer. Folks, I am not, if this happens here, what my vision of this program, it's going to happen because of all of us working together. I'm a gatherer. It takes a village, I used to say in Memphis all the time. It takes a village. It's not one person that can come to the University of Kentucky and say, we're winning national titles. There's no one person out there. It means a community, it means an administration, it means everyone working together to do it. I'm a gatherer. If we do our job and we win and it's something special, if I've done my job, 10,000 people will say without me, they couldn't have done it. 10,000 people would say without me, they couldn't have done this.
He had already had all kinds of success, leading UMass to the Final Four in 1996 and Memphis to the title game in 2008. But he knew that basketball is a religion in the Bluegrass State.
This is pretty heady stuff for me. But this was a dream I had since we brought our team down here, and I believe it was 1992. We had won the Alaska Shootout, came down here to play, and I could not believe the environment. And at that point, I said, I'd love to coach there someday.
His first UK team won its first 19 games and 35 overall, but lost to West Virginia in the Elite Eight. The end result, not good enough for Big Blue Nation. But don't feel sorry for him. He knew what he was getting into. Listen to this one from his opening press conference.
You may want to know about me. I'm a regular guy, folks. I do not walk on water. I do not have a magic wand. I'm day to day. I told Dr. Todd and Mitch, if you want something to happen in a year, do not hire me. That's not how I do things. But when we get it right, you notice we're #1 in the country, we're #1 seeds, and we're playing in Final Fours. When you get it right.
He wanted to be at Kentucky. He understood what it meant to hang 7 banners and what it means to chase a few more. And
pretty interesting stuff. If you want something to happen in a year, all they did in his first year was go 35-3 and make it to the Elite Eight. Right now, 64-11, winning at an 85% clip in his 2 years at Kentucky. And I would say that Kentucky fans are pretty happy with the decision to hire him. You think it's a safe bet?
Absolutely. Kentucky fans are so proud to have him as their coach. And, you know, we were talking about the Kentucky fans, Big Blue Nation, being here today in force. But the Butler fans are starting to trickle in a little bit. And our own Scott Reynolds has more on that from back in the studio. Scott?
Yeah, Kent and Connie, you know, a lot of people can't make it down there, of course, from Indiana. That's just the way it is. It's a long, long drive. But in Indy today, the city's mayor declaring it Butler Blue Friday.
Whereas the city of Indianapolis encourages all citizens of Indianapolis to support the Bulldogs as they attempt to return to the national championship game for the 2nd straight time and win their first NCAA men's basketball championship.
Yeah, Mayor Gregory Ballard leading that pep rally this afternoon. The Governor, Mitch Daniels, also joining the hundreds who gathered on the Butler University campus to show their support for the Bulldogs. Daniels says he's proud of how the Butler players and the students have carried themselves with class throughout the tournament and during celebrations. Unbelievable. They're back for a 2nd straight Final Four, a mid-major school, guys, and they've won 13 games in a row. They know how to win those grinded out 62-60 battles. Hey, maybe Butler ends up winning the national championship. You never know once you get there.
You never know, Scott. You're absolutely right. And what a great coach they have, too.
They do, and we'll talk about him more later in the show. We were actually there in Lucas Oil Stadium last year watching as fans as Butler almost beat Duke to win the national championship that Gordon Hayward shot, just barely missed. All right, well, coming up after the break, we're going to talk to a Kentucky coach from the state of Kentucky who's already won a national championship, Scott Davenport from Bellarmine. He is going to join us live here in Houston. Stay with us. It's almost game on here for the Final Four in Houston, Texas. Brandon Knight having an unbelievable NCAA tournament to this point. One of the big reasons why the Kentucky Wildcats are back in the Final Four for the first time in 13 years. Welcome back to Houston, Texas. I'm Kent Taylor with Connie Leonard, and we have a special guest with us here on the set. Scott Davenport, now the national championship coach and NABC Coach of the Year as well. All kinds of awards flowing in for you, Scotty.
Congratulations, Scotty.
Well, it's all about these players. I said at the start of the year, and I'm not changing now. They have taken many of us throughout the community on an unforgettable journey, believe me.
And you've had all kinds of awards while you're down here. Go ahead and brag on yourself a little bit.
No, this was I actually accepted an award today at a Champions Luncheon, which honors all the Division 1, 2, 3 conference winners from all over the country, every division, every conference there is. And on behalf of our team, was very proud to accept that. And actually, there's an award program on Sunday evening.
When he'll get his NABC Coach of the Year award. And now, a lot of people don't know it, but I mean, a lot of the coaches, head coaches, assistant coaches in college basketball, they have their convention, the NABC convention, so a lot of them in town, Final Four weekend, wherever the site happens to be. You're seeing a lot of guys that you've run into over the years, getting a lot of attaboys, huh?
And it's just, I just wish somehow I could convey to our players and everybody in the Bellarmine community the amount and just this tremendous outpouring of affection. And I shared with you before we went on the air, you and Connie, I accepted the award today on behalf of our team for being conference champions. And Tom Izzo turns to me, because he's president of the National Association of Basketball Coaches, and says, "Congratulations, you have a great team. I watched every second of the game Saturday." I mean, that's Tom Izzo, and I just can't wait to get back and convey all these tremendous comments to our players.
And also the Butler coach, right?
But I got a text Saturday night after the game. Brad Stevens is just one to go back-to-back Final Fours on Saturday, and I'd sent out a text, and I get this back: "Your team is awesome, congrats." I mean, that's Brad Stevens, who's just as good as everybody thinks he is. He's better.
And finally, let's touch on this, because Virginia Commonwealth is in the Final Four for the first time in school history. You were an assistant there with Tubby Smith. It's got to be kind of special to you. You said the secretary in the basketball office still the same lady.
Diane Long's the only one remaining, and Tubby and I spoke about her this morning. We were talking to her, and it's amazing because you got such loyalties. Brad Stevens, like I mentioned, I consider a friend. Obviously, University of Kentucky's our home state, represented. UConn from the Big East with Louisville, and then VCU, where I once coached, with Tubby Smith under Mike Polio.
Interesting stuff. Well, give us your picks real quick. Give us your picks for the two
VCU.
National champions.
I told Tubby I said VCU because nobody can. Well, that's who they wrote us paychecks.
Okay.
When Kentucky, if Kentucky was to write me,
as crazy as that was, that they played in the first four and now playing in the Final Four.
It's
amazing. They're beating teams handily throughout. Shaka Smart, one of the rising stars in this profession.
Well, they're a basketball team, and it just goes to show you the three-point shot, what kind of equalizer it is against Kansas. I mean, they were on fire, and you got to understand now. I've said all along, it's a game of moments, and these moments are getting a little fewer and fewer now, and a little quicker, and never discounts a three-point shot.
And this is the Grand Marshal, the Scotty and the Bellarmine Knights be the Grand Marshals, the Pegasus Parade,
cool.
which of course you see right here.
I should drive the car, vehicle, or whatever for our players. I mean, I don't care if they have to. It's all about them, and I know they are thrilled and with the announcement today, and I think they'll really get an appreciation of how much they've meant to both Louisville and Southern Indiana.
All right. Well, thank you, Coach Davenport, for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Looking forward to you driving that car.
Yeah, and I tell you, a guy that Scotty would probably like to coach a little bit. How about Brandon Knight? All he's done in this NCAA tournament is hit 2 monster shots that will go down in UK lore as 2 of the biggest ever in the NCAA tournament. For the 4th straight season, John Calipari has a talented point guard. Following Tyreek Evans, Derrick Rose, and John Wall is the Cats' new Mr. Big Shot, Brandon Knight.
And I was hard on him now. I mean, I'm very hard on point guards. And they all think I'm hard on them. Each guy thinks I'm hardest on them than anybody, but I'm really tough on point guards because I know they drive your team.
He knocks down big shots for us now, and he drives it to the lane. He knocks down free throws, so he's a great asset to our team.
In 4 career NCAA tournament games, Knight has hit 2 game winners, scored a UK NCAA tourney freshman record 30 points against West Virginia, and been named the most outstanding player of the East region.
In high school, I had a couple game winners, one in the McDonald's game, I think 1 or 2 in the regular season of high school. I think it basically just comes from being a hard worker. Being in the gym, if you work hard and you shoot a lot of shots, you work on your stuff, I think that's where your confidence comes from, just knowing that, you know, you made that shot a bunch of times in practice by yourself. And now it's just time to go out and do it in the games.
He also plays his best against the best, averaging 20.4 points per game against ranked teams. Struggled a little in his first meeting with first-team All-American Kemba Walker, but expect a different result from Knight on Saturday night.
But it's definitely not an individual matchup. The best team is going to win. The best people that play together is going to win. So it's not about a one-on-one matchup.
His work ethic is like nothing I've seen. Zeroes in on a weakness and goes after it to try to make it his strength. But it's, you know, and then as a coach and as a team, you got to say, we want you to make that play. Go make that play.
And he has made that play throughout the NCAA tournament for the Cats. And I said struggled a little in that first meeting with UConn. That's actually a bit of an understatement. 3 for 15 from the field, 0 for 8 from 3, only scored 6 points. And he's only had 3 games all year when he didn't score in double figures. That one, Princeton, where he only scored 2 points, the last 2 of the game, and Ohio State when he hit the game winner. So crazy stuff.
And Kemba Walker is so amazing to watch in the Big East tournament, the 5 games in a row, the 5 wins, and he looked refreshed in that last game, Ken. I don't know about you, what you thought about it, but our Kendrick Haskins had a little time to investigate Kemba a little bit more.
For Lamb. Boy, Walker found himself alone, and that's a 3 out of
He is arguably the best player in the country.
Without question, I think Kemba Walker is the most valuable player in America.
An All-American and Player of the Year finalist, Kemba Walker exploded onto the scene this year when he averaged 30 points a game in the Maui Invitational, including a 29-point outburst against Kentucky and an 84-67 blowout win in the championship game.
How would I stop myself? I wouldn't be able to.
900 and something points in a year. When you average almost 6 rebounds a game at 6 feet, to have a terrific mid-range game along with a 3-point game, you're pretty special.
All season long, Kemba Walker has been a star of stars, and on Saturday night, he will showcase that stardom on the NCAA's biggest stage. Huskies coach Jim Calhoun has coached his share of superstars, and he says Kemba is right up there with the rest.
He's a very special person and a very special player. I mean special. So he's in that categories of, once again, just first name needed, nothing else. And
Kemba Walker scored 29 points in the first meeting with the Cats back on November 24th in Maui. That was a 17-point win by UConn. He is the guy coming into this Final Four. He is the marquee talent. He's the guy who I voted for. I have a vote for the Wooden Award. He got my vote as the Player of the Year, even over Jimmer Fredette. I've seen them both in person. I think he's the best player in college basketball. And Scott Reynolds, what do you think? Does a former most outstanding player in this Final Four, does he agree?
Wow, he is just unbelievable. The shots he pulls off, the smoothness and the calmness he has, Kent. You know, I asked former Wildcat star Jeff Shepard what he would do about the superstar Kemba Walker. Do you let him get his 30 or 35 and try to stop everyone else? Well, Shepard told me no way. He says it needs to be an all-out defensive assault on Walker from the opening tip.
You look at the Tayshaun Prince era. He's so good, he's going to make the challenge shot. You've got to either block his shot or not even let him shoot the ball. Or, you know, if you do that, then you can stop him. If he shoots 25 challenge shots, he's going to make a bunch of them, and he's going to hurt us. And but I just think you got to go after him. Got to wear him down, beat him up, be physical with him. And, hey, if he gets 35 and the whole team fouls out, then you know what? Hats off to him. He was the better player, and they're the better team. But I'm just a big believer in being aggressive.
Wow, when Shepard won it all with the Cats in '98 when we were down there in San Antonio, remember, they were down by 10 at the half to Utah in that title game. Shepard told me that the journey to the Final Four and cutting down the nets as regional champs can easily sidetrack a team.
A lot of teams get to the Final Four and they're so exhausted by the celebration of getting to the Final Four, all the media attention that they get. Sometimes you just lose focus that, you know, you've got 2 more games to play and then you're a national champion.
Now, Shepard said he'd love to be in Houston with the Cats, but he's got a 10-year-old boy and a 6-year-old girl with soccer and baseball games coming up. but he says they will all be screaming wearing their UK garb when they watch the game on TV. And Kent and Connie will never forget them down there having that great game. That great team is actually the MVP of the Final Four, of course, down in San Antonio. And Jeff Shepard became a superstar in UK lore and history with that performance.
Absolutely, some great analysis, Scott, from Jeff Shepard, and I remember that trip down to San Antonio. It was a great one, so much fun. And of course, though, you know, we talk about Kemba Walker and what a threat he is, but you know, this is a very different Kentucky team than the one that played them down in Hawaii.
Both teams are completely different. Connecticut has 7 freshmen on their roster who Jeremy Lamb was not much of a player. You didn't see much from him over in Maui. Now he is one of the better players in college basketball, you could argue. He's quite a talent. And for Kentucky, they were still trying to find that chemistry, working in their talented freshmen with some of the veterans. We'll talk more about one of those veterans. We've already touched on him a little bit, Jorts. We'll talk more about Josh Harrelson when we come back. Stay with us. You're watching Game On. Welcome back to Houston, Texas. We are live on the eve of the Final Four, and ironic that Kentucky beat North Carolina in the East Region Final to equal the Tar Heels with those 105 tourney wins. Of course, they will try to pass North Carolina here in Alliance Stadium tomorrow night, and if they do it, could be because of a big game from this next guy we're going to talk about.
From a big guy, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were talking about that North Carolina game. He really came on. Josh Harrelson, of course, we're talking about. Very aggressive in that game, and he's really become, a lot of Kentucky fans call him the Beast because he's just really come out right now.
This is a guy who played 88 minutes all of last season, scored 28 points all of last season. He scored in double figures in all 4 NCAA tournament games. Kendrick Haskins has more on Jorts.
He has become a fan favorite.
I was the worst player in America. You know, I just kept working. I'm here now.
Josh Harrelson went from sitting on the end of the bench most of his career to becoming, at times, the most important Wildcat on the floor. This has been a dream season for the man they call Jorts.
Every fan that follows us expects us to be in the Final Four every year. And when we don't, you know, they're disappointed in us. So to finally get Kentucky back to the Final Four, especially for my senior year, means a lot to me.
He's playing great right now. What he's doing for that team, it's remarkable.
While these cats are very proud of their former school, Patrick Patterson is the most proud of his backup, Josh Harrelson.
People doubt him. You know, people talk negative about him for a long time, you know, and finally for him to, you know, pretty much show up the critics and for him to play his basketball, you know, that he knows how to play. It's great as a teammate, previous teammate, and, you know, it's even better as a friend to watch.
Thank you, Kendrick. The crazy thing is that many UK fans thought that when Enes Kanter did not ever become eligible, that, you know, maybe their season and their hopes of a possible Final Four were over. But Josh Harrelson, a major, major reason why Kentucky is here in Houston.
And I don't think the fans really even considered that at the beginning.
They didn't think he would be this good, and now, as we've said, he's become a folk hero.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to be coming right back. Please stay with us. We are live here in Houston with Game On, everybody. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back to Houston, Texas. We are live. It's Game On the eve of the Final Four.
Absolutely. I'm Connie Leonard along with Kent Taylor, and we have every aspect of these grounds around here covered, don't we, Kent?
And we also have Scott Reynolds, of course, who's back in the studio, and we want to welcome our viewers, not just in Louisville, but also in Evansville and Cincinnati, as everybody's kind of celebrating Kentucky's return to the Final Four. Butler back in the Final Four for the 2nd straight year. Amazing stuff. And, of course, VCU, maybe the biggest Cinderella in the history, having played in the first 4, the first time they've done that. Now they've won 5 games to get here to Houston, and Connecticut won 5 games in 5 days to win the Big East tournament, now led by Kemba Walker. They are back in the Final Four. Jim Calhoun looking for his 3rd national championship for them, Connie.
Absolutely. And Scott, I understand you're holding the fort down for us back there at home.
Oh, yeah, we are, and I'll tell you what, we've had a blast trying to reach all the Kentucky fans and former players back here in the Louisville area, and it's just, you can feel it here, the excitement, but I know it's a lot different down there. There's nothing like being at a Final Four. It's, even if you don't get in, and of course a lot of people who go there don't get tickets, so they just go down there for the flavor.
Now, it is definitely an electric atmosphere, and the one thing that you notice, especially nowadays with the Final Four, these venues are massive. They're huge. It's not that easy to get around no matter what you're doing here. Now, today what we did have, we had a lot of the people got a chance to go inside of the stadium for the first time. A lot of the fans, free open workouts for all 4 teams. Kentucky took the court here at 2 o'clock Eastern time this afternoon, and we got a chance to see. So there were thousands of Kentucky fans probably there. It didn't look like there was anybody there, though, because this place is so big. Interesting, though, this run here to the Final Four, it may cost the Cats Brandon Knight. He could be headed to the NBA.
Because if it were my son, I would hope that's what a coach would do. And so if we have guys on this team that I think when we look at the stuff should go, I'll encourage them to go. Do I want to coach? I would want to coach Brandon Knight for the next 15 years. I don't want Brandon Knight to leave. I want him here. But at the end of the day, these guys will all have their decisions and that they have to make, and if we've all done our jobs, they'll do what they think is right for themselves and their family. Right now, these guys are focused on one thing, and that's playing here.
One more question.
Crazy. Brandon Knight could improve his draft stock considerably if he has a big game against Kemba Walker here on Saturday night. We talked about Kemba Walker.
Yep.
We've talked about Brandon Knight. And you know what? The best player here may actually be putting on a Butler Bulldogs uniform tomorrow night.
Yeah, Shelvin Mack, of course, from Lexington, Kentucky. And imagine, Kent, you know, you grow up in Kentucky, you're a Kentucky fan.
Yeah.
So are his parents, his mom, his whole family. And so they're a little bit torn around this time of year when you've got a kid who is playing in the Final Four and a team you've loved in the Final Four.
He's very excited.
Not as excited as Shelvin Mack's mother, who any other time bleeds blue.
I actually told him when UK won that made it that much sweeter because I get to watch 2 of my favorite teams. And all he could say was, I suck. He was like, do not do that to me in public. He said I could wear UK socks.
No worries. As long as Shelvin's on the court, Victoria Guy is pulling for the Butler Bulldogs. The former Bryan Station star has been shooting hoops since the age of 5 and always dreamed of playing for UK. He could have, says his mom, but after a late run at Shelvin by Kentucky, he chose Butler.
He said, you know, all a man has is his word. I've told Butler I'm going, and I've got to honor that.
Values instilled in Shelvin by a devoted mom and family. When Shelvin makes his second back-to-back Final Four appearance, he could not only end up playing against UK, but his best friend.
He and Darius talk, tweet, text, everything, just about every day. We've got Shelvin wearing number 7, Darius wearing number 12.
Yep, close pal, Darius Miller.
I'm going to cheer for both, but bottom line, while Shelvin is at Butler, I'm a Butler fan. I'll be cheering quietly for UK, but definitely for Butler.
Oh, that cracks me up. And you know what, Kent? Shelvin apparently has a pre-game ritual. You know what it is?
What is it?
He has to eat hot wings before every game, but he likes them to be brought in the special ones that his mom makes.
Oh, interesting stuff. Nice tidbit. We tell you everything here on Game On. You know, Shelvin and Butler, they started their season in the KFC Yum Center. You remember they played the first real game there. He had a huge night as Louisville actually beat Butler in the first game of the season. And, you know, Butler, they have a lot of fans who've jumped on their bandwagon over the course of the last 2 years. You know, going to the Final Four last year, the national championship game, losing to Duke, making it back to the Final Four. But, Scott, you're going to tell us about one fan who didn't jump on the bandwagon, has been around for a while, right?
That's right, Kent and Connie. She's not torn like Shelvin Mack's mom, that's for sure. An Indiana woman may just be the oldest Butler Bulldogs fan. Dorothy Robb is 100 years old, and you can bet she's excited the team she's been cheering on for more than a half-century is making a back-to-back Final Four appearance. In fact, the university gave her a special present for her recent 100th birthday.
This scarf was a gift from Butler. It came to me in the mail along with a picture.
Now, Rob graduated from Butler back in 1933. I think back then maybe they still had the laces on the basketball. And get this, Kent and Connie, you know the coach Brad Stevens? All right, when he was born, she was 66 when he was a newborn baby. Is that wild?
I think actually, yeah, Scott, I think actually it was still the Peach Baskets.
It might have been.
Yeah, it's been a while. Thank you, Scott.
That's very funny. Well, you know, we talked earlier about how a lot of the Big Blue faithful just got down here today, you know, wanted to come in for the open practice. But a lot of businesses in Houston were really trying to get ready for all the Kentucky fans. And we found one special business that thinks it has its Kentucky fan niche. Reserve 101, a Houston must-see for Cat fans, as it's Kentucky Bourbon Central and one of the top 5 whiskey bars in the nation. As Maker's Mark President Bill Samuels, who made his mark here a couple of months ago.
With Kentucky in the Final Four, having one of the finest selections of bourbon and whiskey in the country, I feel as if we're going to have a great weekend.
Yeah. Co-owner Mike Raymond hopes to be seeing a lot of Big Blue Green with 170 whiskeys, 50 bourbons, and they specialize in limited release.
It is very hard to find. If you're lucky, you can maybe be able to get your hands on 1 bottle a year.
How about some $60 a shot Pappy?
This is a 23-year-old bourbon. Most bourbons you find are aged anywhere from 6 to 10 years.
Raymond was so excited about the Final Four, he came up with shots for each team. Butler's Bulldog Banger.
Nice shade of blue, not as nice as Kentucky blue, but it's nice enough.
UConn's Husky Hang Time.
It's a peppermint-flavored schnapps.
The VCU Ram Rampage, and saving the best for last.
And you go ahead and pour it in there.
The Wildcat Womp. And that's not all.
People from Kentucky come down here to watch the games. You love mint juleps. Let's try something a little bit different. Nice new little twist on things.
A mint julep Texas style, the Woodford Reserve and mint are there, but so are a few habanero peppers. Yeah, I'm gonna get fired. Thanks, Reed.
Yeah, you can take one for the team here.
Okay. Wow, that's good.
Whiskey's what we do best. We do it better than anyone else. So people in Kentucky, you want to feel like you're at home in Texas, come on down to Reserve 101.
All right, a very cool place. And also, Ken, by the way, last night they hosted several coaches that are down here for the Final Four. Of course, none of the coaches that are coaching in the Final Four, but...
you drink the whole thing?
A sip. I tried to tell you that earlier.
Okay. We'll investigate further. We'll be right back, though. You're watching Game On. We are leading up to the Final Four games here in Houston on Saturday. Stay with us. Welcome back to Houston, Texas on the eve of the Final Four. Miles Simon in Arizona, the only number 4 seed to win the NCAA tournament. We were both there for it. They actually beat Kentucky in the national championship game back in 1997 in overtime in Indianapolis. That was Rick Pitino's final game as the Cats head coach.
Yep. Of course, Kentucky came back in '98, so you know, they were happy about that, of course, all the fans. And, you know, Ken, a lot of the fans tonight are taking in another basketball game. Of course, the Houston Rockets playing tonight, and there are a couple of Cats on that team.
Yeah, and Patrick Patterson, of course, one of the guys who people thought would lead Kentucky back to the national championship. Last year, they came up just short, losing in the Elite Eight to West Virginia, but he is joined on that Rockets team by Chuck Hayes. Our Kendrick Haskins talked with both of them earlier today.
On paper, the 2010 Kentucky Wildcats were more talented than the 2011 squad. But this year's team did what last year's group could not do. They made it to the Final Four. But for Patrick Patterson, he is not envious, he's proud.
It's just, it's been a long time coming. You know, we've had some rough years in the past, especially my first 2 years there. You know, when Calipari came in, you know, that was a stepping stone in order to get where we want to be, which is where we are right now in the Final Four.
For former Cat Chuck Hayes, although he never made it past the Elite Eight, when Kentucky wins, everybody wins.
I wish I could have been there. I wish twice I went to the Elite Eight and came up short. But, you know, when the Cats make it, it's like all the alumni make it, so I'm just happy for them.
And for both Chuck Hayes and Patrick Patterson, this tournament run is not only pride in their school, but also gives them bragging rights with their Houston Rockets teammates.
We got the fake Arizona Wildcats, those Wildcats. We got 2 guys in there. We got a couple of SEC ties in Ole Miss and Alabama, and Michigan State guy. I mean, they really can't say nothing to us right now. Right now, we own the Toyota Center.
Just the other day, Brad Miller was talking about Purdue. He ended up buying Final Four tickets because he thought Purdue was going to make it, you know, and I'm not letting that go. You know,
All righty, thank you very much, Kendrick. And interesting, those guys with home games on Friday and then Sunday against the Hawks, they plan to come to the game tomorrow night here and the championship game as well. And they could be joined at the championship game if the Cats make it by DeMarcus Cousins because Sacramento actually plays here in Houston on Tuesday night.
Good stuff, Ken. It's good to hear from those guys. And another Kentucky great that we love to hear from. I love this guy. He also is my favorite realtor, right? No. Scott Reynolds talked to Rick Roby, didn't you, Scott?
That's right. Of course, he had a nice little NBA career, too. I talked with Roby, and he thinks DeAndre Liggins will be the difference in the game because of his height and long arms on defense. Roby won it all with the Cats back in '78. Yeah, with the tight little shorts, and went on to a nice NBA career with the Celtics. He believes Liggins, along with Knight and Darius Miller, will make it difficult for Kemba Walker and those UConn guards.
They're long, you know, they play good defense, and I just think that's going to, because the UConn guards aren't big guards, they're more stocky, great players, but I think the length of Kentucky hopefully will be the big difference. Stock market affected.
Stock market even affects. And I asked Roby if the Cats making the Final Four now takes him back to those memories when he wore the UK blue and won the title.
No question about it. You know, as a player, you don't realize all the hoopla and the excitement. If I would have known that as a player, I'd have been scared to death. But it's a really neat time of the year for me, just kind of reminiscing, being here with you today. You know, it's fun just remembering it.
Now, Roby won't be at the Final Four because he's going to Florida, watching his son Sam fight for a starting spot on the offensive line for the Florida Gators football team because they got spring practice in Kenton County. I would say that's a pretty good excuse, you know, being there for your kids. So he's going to be watching it in HD somewhere.
Yeah, he's become one of the big Florida football fans and actually kind of helped U of L land Charlie Strong. Seth Hancock, another big Florida booster down there, and he was good friends with Charlie, and it all kind of came together to get him to the University of Louisville. By the way, DeAndre Liggins, he told me the other day he was really tired. It was the third game in 3 days, that game in Maui when they played Connecticut the first time, so he wants another chance at guarding Kemba Walker.
All right, he's going to get it. Well, we are going to be right back. Stay with us, everybody. Game On continues when we come back here in Houston.
Freedom Hall in Louisville has hosted 6 Final Fours. The last, though, back in 1969 when Lou Alcindor and UCLA won it. Next year we'll have first and second round games in the KFC Yum Center, though. And the Final Fours in Freedom Hall in the 60s, that kind of got a little streak started for some Louisville guys, too.
Absolutely. The stats crew who does the Final Four is the University of Louisville stats crew, a 6-member crew that gets here, and they do so much work. It's unbelievable. Sports Information Director Kenny Klein leads the charge, of course, and they've been doing it straight for 40 years. Kenny says he's been doing it for 27. He says it's just an honor to be here at the Final Four. But we said, Kenny, come on, it's a lot of work, right?
We're feeding so many different things. We're feeding scoreboards, we're feeding internet, we're feeding, you know, now the technical ages, you know, you got a lot of pressure on you, or at least you feel pressure. You know, you're still doing the same things that you're doing during the course of the year, but you just got a lot more eyes on you at that point.
Definitely a lot of eyes on you, and so much work that they do, but it is so appreciated, and that's why they keep asking them back.
And I'll tell you what, one coach who continues to add and add to his impressive stats, and a guy who really, you never hear anyone say anything bad about.
Seems like the nicest guy in the world.
Everybody seems to love the guy. I'm talking about Butler head basketball coach. He looks like just a young kid, Brad Stevens. Bob Knight won 3 national championships at Indiana. Branch McCracken won 2. Gene Cady won 512 games at Purdue. But only one coach has led a Hoosier State school to back-to-back Final Fours. 34-year-old Butler head coach Brad Stevens.
No team is a perennial Final Four contender. You know, like, it's really hard to go back to back. It's really hard to go once. But I do think this. I think that Butler has been a contender through all 4 coaches.
This is his personality, able to relate to players on and off the court. You know, he's always given us confidence. We're able to be a leader off the court. It can help your teammate a lot on the court.
In 4 seasons as the Bulldogs head man, Stevens has 116 wins, 9 more than any coach has ever won in his first 4 years.
Brad couldn't handle this situation. If you had scripted it, Brad handles everything that's happened around him maybe better than any guy I've ever seen. I got a chance to speak to him in Washington, and he's a superstar. He's special.
What can you tell people about Brad Stevens that maybe they don't know, that they don't see in the public Brad Stevens?
You know, he's a competitor. You know, on and off the court. He talks a lot of smack too. You know, we do a lot of shooting games, and he beat me one time. I didn't hear enough of it.
Just once?
He might beat me twice, but you know, I beat him the last time, so he gets to hear a lot of it now.
He is a heck of a basketball coach, and there's a lot of question whether or not he's going to stay at Butler. He's kind of been adamant that he likes the situation, likes the people there, and that's why he has stayed. You have to figure again, a lot of people are going to come after him, and this is shocking. His second straight Final Four. He's not the youngest coach here, though, in the Final Four. He's 34. Shaka Smart, the head coach at VCU, he'll be 34 a week from today. Yeah, a lot of their fans were here at the Final Four today watching the team, and I got to tell you, they look great today. They were very loose. I watched them come through the tunnel, and they were singing, very happy, so they must love their coach. Coach Smart, a practice participant. Kendrick Haskins with more on that.
Virginia Commonwealth has become the darlings of this year's tournament, only after virtually every analyst said they didn't even belong in the big dance.
You know, fortunately, we've won 5 games. For 5 games, we've been the underdog. We continue to be the underdog for tomorrow's game. If we win tomorrow's game, we'll be the underdog again, and we'll use that as much as we can.
Head coach Shaka Smart has become a superstar in the coaching ranks, and his peers have taken notice.
My wife's a labor and employment attorney, so I said I'm going to retire and try to be Shaka Smart's agent. But I think, you know, I've got a lot of respect for him. He's really good at what he does.
At 33, head coach Shaka Smart is the youngest coach in the Final Four, only by a few months from Brad Stevens at Butler. But when you look at Coach Smart, it's easy to confuse him with one of his players. That would explain why he was able to shock everybody during Friday practice, taking charges and diving after loose balls with his players.
I've been talking about how important some of the little things on the defensive end are to this game tomorrow night. So our coaches figured that we would step in and put our bodies where our mouth is.
All righty, thank you, Kendrick. And Shaka Smart, another guy whose phone will be ringing off the hook. I'm sure it is already, but he'll get some job offers after this one, too.
They're fun to watch, I tell you. All right, and we will be right back with more Game On, everybody. Stay with us. It is not over yet. We'll be right back.
Only North Carolina, UCLA, and Duke have been to more Final Fours than the University of Kentucky. The Cats here for the 14th time, and they will try to win their 8th national championship. And to do it, they're going to have to get by first Connecticut here on Saturday night. I'm Kent Taylor, live in Houston, Texas. Scott Reynolds joins me live from our studio in Louisville, Kentucky. And Scott, let's talk about the keys to the game, how we see them, what Kentucky is going to have to do to win this game. And I think whenever you start talking about it, the first thing you have to talk about is UConn star Kemba Walker. Had 29 points against the Cats in their first meeting in Maui. He scored 30 points or more in 3 of their last 6. Really been turning it up in the postseason in the Big East tournament. Played great in the NCAA tournament. Containing him going to be key. DeAndre Liggins will get his chance.
Yeah, it's so hard to guard him, and of course he just takes over a game. You know, he has that flair like a Jordan to just take over a game, and they'll have to watch for that. What's another key from you, Kent?
I think three-point shooting, this is a Kentucky team. Last year, three-point shooting is what sent them home. It's why they lost to West Virginia in the regional final, ended their season. This team, an excellent three-point shooting team, actually one of the best in the country. Brandon Knight has been deadly during this NCAA tournament. Even DeAndre Liggins hit the huge three that was the key shot in the win over North Carolina. So if the Cats are hitting from three, that opens it up for Josh Harrelson inside to get those offensive rebounds, to score in the paint. And Terrence Jones has been really quiet of late. He's a guy who could erupt for 25 points, although this team seems to play better when he doesn't try to do as much offensively. And finally, I'm going to go with big shot Brandon Knight, because whenever a guy's played in 4 NCAA tournament games and hit a game winner in 2 of them, how can he not talk about him?
I got to agree with you there, and I'm going to go with the #1 key, Terrence Jones' composure. Does he look like a new freshman or really like a veteran junior, like he's looked in these last 5-6 games? Taking his time, the game is slowed down for him. If Terrence Jones plays well and makes those offensive moves when they're really there, it'll be a huge difference in this game. I agree with Kent on the three-point shooting. I think they have to hit at least 30% of their threes. They can't go 4 through 32 like they did last year against West Virginia. They don't have to hit 50%, but just be solid, at least 30% on the threes. Don't brick it. And then my final key, Kent, is no injuries, because this team is truly just 6 deep. Hood might play 2 or 3 minutes. Vargas gets 2 or 3 minutes, but really it's just 6. And if they get an injury, kind of like Preston Knowles going down for Louisville, and if it happened earlier in the game, I mean, that would really be tough on those 5 Cats that would be left pretty much all alone.
Yeah, injuries and foul trouble could be major for them. John Calipari talked about today how Terrence Jones, when he first saw him in high school, he was really impressed with his passing, and he didn't pass a lot early this season, but maybe we'll see more of that from him tomorrow. And Connie, you ready for these games?
I am ready. I'm so excited. I'm just like the Kentucky fans, the Butler fans. We are ready for this. I can't wait.
And who knows, we could have a title game on Monday night, Kentucky against Butler. I'm not sure if that's what I'd pick, but we'll see. The game's about to begin here in Reliant Stadium in Houston, Texas.
Absolutely. For Kent Taylor, I'm Connie Leonard. Scott Reynolds in the studio. Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us.